Good evening, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. All I have to say is, what are you doing here, Mr. Goose?
Yeah, we're gonna find out what happened to the goose. If something happened. Golden egg.
Yes.
Maybe
Yeah.
something completely opposite of
Yeah.
that. But before we get going, I am Mike.
And I'm Tom. And we're the first to last in Nerdom.
Yes, we are. This is our
Uh,
main week coverage. I'll let you go ahead, Tom.
yeah, we cover the wide spectrum, the rainbow, if you will, of all things Nerdom. We cover comic books, we cover movies, we cover videotape collecting. We got it all. So yeah, if you're here for Pearl, we you might want to stick around and take a look at our back catalog. We've covered quite a few different horror movies in the past, as well as lots of fantasy. I've been kind of beefing up our back catalog of fantasy movies, and Mike's our sci-fi guy. So yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that. I think we minor in what you see up on the screen here is our main channel on YouTube, where we are primarily A1 available at all times. If you message us or see us or interact, we will see that first and foremost. So we always encourage the audience. What do you think as we get into this? Like this film, the series, the et cetera. We're going to get into a lot of this here, but we would love to hear from you. I will just say, like Tom was saying, our back catalog ever growing. I think we're somewhere in the realm of, yeah, not quite at 200, but we are flirting. We'll be there very shortly. But we're also on. Actually, Tom heads up our Twitter department, or X department, whatever, if you want to call it
Hmm.
that. Well, there's another X that we'll be talking about related to the main topic. But before we get
Absolutely.
there, go ahead, shout out to him. Hey, give him a follow, a like. That's where you're there. I'm also on ApeIt.Ink, and I have a thing where you can find all the various things that me and Tom do, etc. on a little really cool link tree thing, whatever. It's not link tree, but in any case, before I get too long winded here, I'm going to take this one down, and then I'm going to kind of set the stage here for our main event. Yeah, so we have a little bit of history with this. I think
Hmm.
prolonged. And I have actually, I'll let you go ahead and kind of give us a kind of recap, like where we're at in this world, because we kind of did a doubleheader
Hmm.
over a year ago, which I'll pull up here on the screen momentarily.
Hmm.
And then I kind of want to revisit. I kind of want to dip into that one a little bit.
Yeah.
What It's kind of set the stage, and then kind of we're kind of
Right.
an interesting way of how this is working. But anyway, take it away.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had a love affair with A24. This is a A24 joint. About a I guess about a year ago, we maybe two. We talked about X, which is the main movie, and Pearl is the prequel. X, we got a little cheeky, like your movie sucks, and paired X with the movie Men, so it was X Men. So if you're looking for our back catalog video of it, it's in the X Men one, because in X is the X in X Men is the movie X,
Right.
which is sort of an ode to horror and porn 70s movies. It sort of very harkens back to that look and feel, and is set in the 70s. And yeah, so there's the main character Maxine, and
Foreshadowing.
yeah, and she's runs afoul of Pearl,
Mhm.
which is
Year and a half
the
later.
evil baddie. So yeah, we may get into spoilers for X and Pearl. So basically, but yeah, we'll kind of keep it spoiler free as much as we
I
can
well,
in the first little bit here.
yeah, I think we'll give ourselves like 10 minutes
Mhm.
maybe, and then we'll call it out, and then we can kind of, or 10, 15
Mhm.
minutes, whatever feels natural as the conversation goes. But we'll make sure that we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we originally had did this on, I think it was October of 2022. And of
Mhm.
course, this was newer to then than it is today. We've
Mm-hmm.
had a year, 18 months or so as we're scooting down the timeline here.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of funny how I really meant to go back and re-listen to like kind of our conversation. I didn't, unfortunately. I kind of ran out of
Right.
time. I tried to get a lot on here because there's a lot to say. Because as you watch it, as you watch these things, I would say kind of like when you were kind of given a 10,000-foot view of what we do or what we cover. We minor in the 80s. We
Yes.
minor in horror. We minor in sci-fi. We minor in some of these things that we like to. And I am a newly converted, I guess, person to horror. So
Mm-hmm.
my I've kind of gone for this very brutish cut, very unvarnished kind of understanding of this world, and I've kind of found favorites here and there. A24, like you mentioned, that they're I think one of our favorite ones. So I guess we're slowly minoring in A24. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
quite sure, but
Mm-hmm.
and we don't we both don't think that A24 is the end all be all of movie studios. But when you're doing things that are very unique and have a certain kind of feel, sometimes they can tend to be a little bit more art house
Mm-hmm.
than not, but they can also be equally as ricocheting as it goes through here. But yeah, this one, this was this intended to be the first? So you're intended to see Pearl first and then X, would you say,
No. Well.
or does it really matter in your opinion?
Well.
Because we kind of watched it maybe out of order, or I don't know. I don't know what the
No.
thought would be on
No.
that.
X was released first. So yeah, that one's the first
All right, good.
movie. Pearl's definitely the prequel. So so X isn't considered the sequel. It's the original. You watch that first. Yeah, the little bit of backstory on the making of it. It was filmed during COVID. And X was filmed in New Zealand. So when they
Mm,
went over to New Zealand, they had that 2 week period of quarantine before they could even start
right,
filming.
right,
So Ty West and Mia Goth got together, and they started kind of developing the backstory for one of the characters, Pearl, in X, and they kind of got really into what her backstory was and why she did the things that she did, and they started thinking, hey, this could be a movie too. And so yeah, they hit up A24 and say, hey, instead of doing one movie, could we do two movies in in New Zealand? So yeah, they filmed X over a month. Then they had to shut down for a month to redecorate the house because the house
mhm,
in is used in both movies. The house and barn, which is the main center stage for both
mhm,
movies.
right,
They shut it down for a month and redid the house and barn because they had to make it look new for the
right,
prequel. And so yeah, and then they filmed Pearl. So this kind of interesting because both are period pieces. One set in the 70s, one set
right.
in 1918. But yeah, the but it Pearl is a little bit kind of today because it takes place in 1918, which is during the Spanish flu,
Right.
which echoes COVID times. And so I'm sure that was very much on their mind
Yeah,
when they were writing this as well.
yeah, it's funny how something so significant back at the time, and I what I had there up on the screen was just a really cool interview, talking, asking them, "Hey, how did this come about?" Kind of
Hmm.
like really cool, actually, kind of a background,
Hmm.
and I think the how the pandemic was, it ends up kind of not really being a character per se. It's just part of the period of
Uh-huh.
time we're in. It's not really, there's no other layering because you can get all kinds of layering for these kind of things, but
Hmm.
yeah, so we have seen this in the correct order. So that's cool,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or as it were, but
But yeah, it's interesting because you can watch in either order because
it doesn't. Yeah, I'd
it
say you're
doesn't
right. They're
yeah.
very good standalone films on their own
uh
own rights.
because a lot of times, yeah, if you go back and watch Pearl, you may want to then rewatch X to kind of see all the Easter eggs, so to speak, in the house or whatnot that's been there since the Pearl times. Because they did when they were filming X, even though they filmed it first, they knew that they were going to do Pearl, so they put a little Easter eggs in there, so that when you go back and rewatch X, you'll see some hints from the previous movie.
Yeah, yeah. There are things, and I kind of got some. I think because I had seen X, uh, and I didn't go back and rewatch it, but I kind of want to after seeing it. Kind of begs it to you either or. It kind of gets you in the mood.
Yeah.
But there I picked up a lot more facts of the movie, I guess, or the world, that kind of you see
Hmm.
this build up, and it kind of explains this Pearl character. And the only other thing that I would say would be the call out Mia Goth, who plays Pearl in both these films, and in the other characters as well in
Hmm.
X. Um, there's just this triplicate of her,
Yeah.
and she wrote. She was credited. She had writing credits on this
Hmm.
on Pearl, and I kind of I feel like I don't know, but, like, I she did a great job, like,
Yeah.
it really blew me away, because I
Hmm.
forgot about this until you were like, "Hey, you know what? Let's change up our plans here, and how about this one? How about we revisit this one?"
Hmm.
And I'm glad we did because she's,
Hmm.
it kind of, like, gives her character so much more, like, where in X, you get close to her, but because of the nature of the movie, there's so many perspectives and characters that are going on through in the first there's a
Hmm.
lot going on in X.
Hmm.
Like, whereas this one is a lot more slowed down and you have a much more intimate,
Yeah,
um,
it's
like,
more of a, yeah.
one-on-one with her, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah, it's more of a character
crazy.
study. Yeah, yeah, it's more of a character study. And it's interesting. It's very different from most horror movies. And in fact, some people may not even want to term it as a horror movie. It's very much a character study in the character of Pearl, and like you said, it's a tour de force performance by Mia Goth. You could tell that she's really invested her heart and soul into this project. And yeah, just we've kind of danced around it, but the story of Pearl is basically a young woman, kind of dissatisfied with life, living on the farm.
Mhm,
She wants to become a dancer. She wants to get up on the movie screen and be a dancer, and uh, go to Hollywood. Live that beautiful Technicolor life that Hollywood promises. Obviously, we know now that Hollywood doesn't always answer everybody's prayers in the way that we would think. But
mhm.
yeah, for Pearl during the 1918 time, yeah, that seemed like the way to go. And yeah, it's in the way things play out. It's very, very. There's a realism to it, but it's a kind of a heightened realism to
Well
everything.
well, you definitely see the world from her eyes,
Hmm.
and because, like, you for the most part, they're rational, and you do see reality as reality for the most part, but there are some other things slipping and sliding going here that may or may
Yeah,
not involve other
right.
influences on her or under the influence of whatever, but not getting into too much too quickly too. I noticed some Easter eggs, which we'll get into, but some of the her perspective is like this farm girl, like, you kind of like,
Hmm.
I didn't really kind of think about this until after I got done watching it, and I was like, so she's fascinated by the by she wants to be famous, she wants to be adored, I guess would be another way,
Hmm.
or accepted, adored, with adulation, she kind of like
Noticed,
yeah,
because
notice,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, seen, noted, absolutely, yeah, and she has just this deep yearning to be appreciated,
Hmm.
and then you kind of see as you kind of go through her life, like as this part kind of comes in and introduces itself, you kind of see why,
Hmm.
and that's just something that's always there in the background, and you really feel for her,
Yeah.
and then you kind of reach a tipping point, and we're about 15 minutes in, so like maybe we'll hold off onto the spoilers until the 20-minute mark, but just be warned, like next 5 minutes or so, we'll probably start heading into that
Yeah.
territory because you really can't without going into to talk about the
Right.
film properly, and that's what we want to give you guys a proper shake. So maybe
Yeah.
maybe if you don't want to hear spoilers, this would be your little bit of a
Yeah,
warning sign
your
there.
escape hatch out of out of things.
Right.
But yeah, it's just talk about the opening scene. They were originally going to they wanted to shoot it in black and white, and
Oh,
A24
really?
said no, we can't do it in black and white, and so they went completely opposite and wanted to go old Hollywood, golden age Hollywood, and
Hmm.
make it Technicolor,
Right.
everything bright and vibrant, and that opening scene where she's going out to feed the animals, and it's bright, cheery, vibrant colors, and the vibrant colors go through the whole movie. It's just such a beautiful looking movie. But yeah,
That's one thing that I adore and I love about certain kinds of how horror is, I guess, or portrayed. Doesn't mean that you can't have,
yeah,
very bright,
beautiful.
different concepts of color. If anything, it enhances it,
Yeah,
and it kind of takes you out of this cliche, oh, horror movie, that kind
right.
of thing, which
Yeah.
I adore. That's one of the things I adored about this.
Yeah, and and yeah, and if you when we go into the movie, for the most part, you kind of pre-know that it's kind of a horror movie.
Right.
So we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. But if you watch the movie completely blind to start out, it almost looks like one of those old grand Hollywood movies where
Right.
the girl's going out to the farm.
Right.
Maybe she's going to become this great Hollywood star, and she's talking to her animals about what she's going to be doing. You got the credits kind of scrolling over long that looks just like
Uh,
something from a old movie, and the
uh,
music and everything.
I mean, they're not even. They're not even trying. It's Dorothy. It's the you're on your Toto. Here's Toto, and here's me. Here's Lassie, or here's any kind of down home farm kind of Americana that you can pull down. This one, it's not. There's not really anything there further on, like with Wizard of Oz, but it flirts hard with that concept. It's definitely gives you the impression, which is kind of one, but you're starting to see this world build.
Well, it brings
And
a whole
oh,
new different meaning to "There's no place like home."
yeah, yeah, home home, yeah,
Yeah, home is
home where the things are buried at.
yeah, or stabbed or killed.
Or served.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so spoilers. So yeah, at the end of that scene, she I did the line. I might not have got it quite right, but it's "What are you doing here, Mister Goose?" And that's when the other shoe finally drops, and we see her kill Mister Goose and feed it to uh, Theta or whatever the name
Yeah,
of the
Theta.
alligator.
Yes, yeah, Theta, and I think the goose is supposed to be Mary Pickford, or
Hmm.
named after Mary, and then the cow I think is Charlie Chaplin, something like
Hmm.
that. But like the the
uh,
the Theta is which I didn't have no idea who these people were, but apparently they're named after, like her critters are named after
hmm.
famous movie people, which plays into this kind of thing, like where she's fascinated by
Hmm.
um by by famous people, and being able to do what she wants to do, because she is
Hmm.
kind of bound up in this cocoon of thing, like where she can never metamorphosize beyond
Hmm.
farm girl, or whether it's dutiful wife, dutiful sister, that sort of thing, or
Hmm.
sister-in-law, I guess, or whatever you want to, like. There's family here that is not. She's not disconnected from the thing, but you're just kind of it gets layered more and more. And then you kind of you. I also like how they did this, because they could have so easily screwed this up with her mom,
Hmm.
that how they portrayed her, kind of evil stepmother, kind of either evil mother kind of thing, like.
Hmm.
They perfectly navigated her portrayal. I don't know about you, what your thoughts were on that, but like it, it was not trope like at all. It was in good service, and they pulled it off, is what I'm saying. Is like, if that's something very easy that a horror film could really not be able to lift up
Right.
quite as well. But
Yeah.
every it fits in. I don't know what your thoughts were on that. Like
Yeah. This is one of those movies that I crave. It's kind of hits my sweet spots. It checks all the boxes. Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, like you. Pearl was always on my mind because we did X, and Pearl came out not too long afterwards because it was filmed practically at the same time, and so it came out, and then I don't think the Blu-ray came out until much later, and things kind of happened in my life, and I didn't get a chance to really revisit Pearl because I wanted to get a copy of it like I did with X,
right,
and so it's and then it being a prequel is like okay, the trappings and the thing with prequels is you've got preconceived notions as to what it's going to be, and a lot of there's theories on whether or not you should do prequels because a lot of times what people's come up with their mind you're not going to match, so you're always going to kind of maybe disappoint with a prequel. However, with this, so I was kind of wondering what can they really do with this Pearl character that we don't already know about her from X, and I was I should have known, but I was very very much surprised and really fell in love with this movie. I knew it would be good, but I didn't
yeah,
realize how good and if not great. That's why I put in a modern classic because as I was watching it,
I agree with that.
um, it was they did everything right. We talked about another horror movie a couple of weeks back called Talk to Me,
Hmm.
and I really enjoyed it. I think you liked it, but to a lesser extent.
Yeah,
But there was points where I was like, okay, well they could have done this a little bit better. They could have done that a little bit better.
it,
With this movie, I could not find where they could have done something better.
no, I agree. This one, Talk to Me, and this one are they're not even on the same playing field. Like this one is complete. Talk to Me. There's nothing wrong with Talk to Me.
And Talk to
It,
Me is by
it's
a brand new filmmakers. This is it was their very first film, so not to discredit them too much.
no,
But yeah,
no, not
so
at
in the
all. No,
future, I'm sure they'll
no.
do something amazing.
And I think that was like when their first at bat too, as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
they did YouTube previously, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
it's yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So and there's a lot of great first at bats that we have covered over the last year, like including Timothy Chalamet's that one film. I think that was like one of the first or second ones of that. I can't remember the director, so shame on me. But
No,
going
no,
back,
he previously did Suspiria, so he's
okay,
had a few
uh,
under his belt.
okay, right, but he was more in the first part of his career than not. But yeah, but this one, and there's nothing wrong with Talk to Me at all. It's just like it's like three quarters there, like
Hmm.
where a film like Pearl is full and complete,
Hmm.
as it executes this vision, and I agree, like and I don't know what it is with A24 films, but maybe it's just the ones that we've seen that we've kind of we've breadcrumbed or I've breadcrumbed my way, like whether it's Under the Skin or it's the Midsummer, which
Hmm.
I love. Like
Uh-huh.
I don't know why, but there are this
Hmm.
innocence to it that kind of goes for it, it's just interesting how it unfolds.
Hmm.
And I would actually say that, yeah, give Ty West credit, absolutely, but also give me a Goth credit as well. Like
Yeah, they're
this is,
amazing duo. The
yeah,
two of them. It's it's amazing to see what they could
together
do.
it
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, and
Really, really, really solid at bat. You're not going to be
uh,
disappointed, for sure.
right,
That's kind of the shorthand that
right,
I would say.
and this is a movie where the main character is the villain. Say, most movies, horror movies, the bad guy is in the background stalking people.
Right.
The very rare do you have the bad guy, bad girl be center stage in this, and it's amazing how they could kind of dig into the
Well,
character and not only show she's the villain of the story, but you are very sympathetic. Mia Goth had a very fine line that she had to travel to make
right.
herself both menacing and lovable and understandable, and she does it wonderfully. I mean, there's I liken horror to comedy in that there's a fine line that if you go a little too far one way or the other, it lands flat. You really have to really nail it, or it's gonna look goofy. It's not gonna be what it's aiming towards, and then with any movie, you got so many spinning plates, so to
Right.
speak, going on. It's understandable that some of them are going to fall and crash. It's even more impressive when they don't, and everything works out like this movie.
Yeah, no, I actually, and not that there's anything wrong with X either, but
Hmm.
it's two different movies,
Oh, absolutely.
for sure. Like, they have their own kind of bandwidth for quality.
Hmm.
Because there's certain, there's some things there, whatever. But I think this was, I enjoyed this. Not that I didn't enjoy X, because like this kind of gives another kind of foundation to it that I didn't have.
Hmm.
You kind of you're kind of like just shotgunned, pun intended,
Uh-huh.
on men, or excuse me, on X, like where you're this creepy old this
Yeah.
almost like a witch, or like a demon, kind of old woman that is
Hmm.
just possessed. You don't know
Hmm.
what the hell is, but with this is kind of like how she becomes that, I guess, or how how it could have been different, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
But
yeah. Hmm.
it introduces a whole lot of stuff,
Hmm.
like where, yeah, she's bad, but she's also human, and
Hmm. Yeah.
the way that they creep you into her space, they I don't know that could see, or could tell you the last time I saw a movie like this, like where with the exposition, like where she's talking. There's at one point, pretty
Hmm.
pivotal. She kind of just
Hmm.
lets you've seen the thing, but you haven't heard her really kind of talk about how she
Hmm.
feels about it, all of this, kind
Hmm.
of all of this world. I mean, you get glimpses for sure, but
Hmm.
and that's the action part that you see in her expressing that and living
Hmm.
that. But then there's the whole other part of like a very, um, you know, heart to heart conversation,
Hmm.
that occurs, that like is like kind of like a confession time, kind of like
Hmm.
narration, kind of like a big catch up, and I guess I don't know about you, but it just twist and warp your feelings about her,
Hmm. Yeah.
as it
I.
goes. Like, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
Yeah.
I thought that was, they goddamn, they nailed that. Like,
Yeah, the monologue that she does
right,
towards the end.
with
Yeah,
the
it's
sister-in-law, with
yeah,
Mitzi, I think.
right. Yeah, it's one of those things where as she talks, I mean everybody's kind of felt kind of out of sorts or out of place, or
Right.
why are we why am I not getting what other people get? You know, it's sort of like that very deep, heart wrenching thing of why why am not I not good enough, and it's very relatable. But she's at this point has killed several people,
Right. That's
and
where it's kind of like that's where the peculiarity leap kind
right.
of creeps in. It's like, damn.
That's yeah, that's that odd juxtaposition of really getting to know and understand her and relating to her, but not relating to her because she's done the things that she's done. And as she's talking to her sister-in-law, and you're also, even though you're not seeing the sister-in-law's face as she's talking, you can almost imagine what her the emotions running across her sister-in-law's face, and it's a very emotional scene, and you don't normally get that in a horror movie. That's what makes it so unique. The To go back to X, X was very much in the vein of a 70s horror movie, and it was competing and kind of Well, it's kind of a ode to those old horror movies.
Which
Those,
it nailed. It nailed the.
yeah.
I do remember us talking about
Hmm.
the period of time, and it nails it very
Hmm.
well, especially like for how
Yeah.
how you're introduced to the events as they happen.
Right, exactly, and so it had a huge competition. Even though it was kind of an ode to those, you're gonna compare it to those old '70s horror movies, those classic horror movies, and stood head and shoulders among those,
Oh, absolutely. It
and
was
made
no different.
itself, yeah, it made
I mean, for
itself
quality,
a classic as well. So,
right?
but Pearl, even though it kind of harkens back to those golden age of Hollywood movies, it's unique in and of itself. It's it's a pearl, so to speak,
Sure.
so it has no competition, and but it rises above everything and sort of sets the new classic for this. The I read right before we went to record on IMDb that it's considered the female Joker, which as I was thinking about it, I guess it does in
I
a sense because she's kind of in her own world. She wants to be famous. And things go awry. So I see on kind of just a tangential level that it is kind of the same, but completely different.
Right. Yeah, I guess I could see that. If you were, yeah, that's a valid. I have nothing to bat that down with or criticize it. It's
Right.
totally relevant. But she is her character, her depth, like where she goes from one to the other, and then you're kind of like, if I were to watch X again, in the next couple weeks, I'm gonna. It's almost like she's so good, you forget
Hmm.
that she's playing multiple people, in the thing, and they do absolute justice to all of these concepts that we're talking about more
Right.
often than not. But Pearl delivers itself up very strongly, and they're God, they really just lay down the innocence right away. Like
Mm.
you're on a farm, and and you have these things. You see her dad, and he's not. You see, underdog,
Hmm.
and people are. I think that's another aspect that kind of draws you in too. Like she lures you in like with this
Hmm.
underdog kind of
Yeah, because
situation, and you kind of see her mom is overbearing, but like not
you can
like
understand what she
not
why
evil.
she, yeah, you understand her reasoning, whether or not you agree with her methods or not. You understand her as a person,
Right,
and you
she's
understand what she's doing. She's during a time of war. She's acutely aware that she's German, and that Germans are not very much liked in
right,
America, and you have to mind your p's and q's and not draw attention to yourself. Whereas
right.
Pearl is all
It's
about
true.
drawing attention to herself and wanting to express and
I didn't
yeah.
put two and two together like that about the
Uh,
German and the whole and the
uh,
World War One. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
no, that was very true. Like, if you have like, I have family history, but
mm-hmm.
there were like when they came over or whatever, like they would change the name a little bit,
Yeah.
or if you were, you had, a
Mm-hmm,
certain kind of name of the people back then. People were thrown in jail for anti-war protests back in the day,
mm-hmm.
like back in this era. So there was no like kind of thing. There was a you. That's genius. I had not heard anybody talk about that aspect of the film too. Um, but this farm that you're on,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of see, she doesn't strike me as like I said, that kind of that role of, kind of, bad mother trope, territory,
No,
whatever,
yeah,
cliche.
which it
The
could be because she has that strong German
Right,
accent.
but she's doing it in a, but you can tell like her rules and her framework is like religious. It's like it's,
Mm-hmm.
religiously minded from that. And I have seen that era be portrayed a certain kind of way. Like where people had, a very, they were very independent, and things were very different back then. Like,
But also the mother. is slightly crazy as well. You can see where Pearl comes from. Also, the mother,
Oh yeah, well she's hurting too. She's
yeah,
she's
yeah,
she's
she's
hurting absolutely. And
right.
that's something that you don't really see. Like if you see Evil Stepmom or whatever, like you don't see
Mm-hmm,
the human side. That's why they're so good at bringing in the humanity in here, even
yeah.
for these people that like you want to
Yeah,
hate.
and you talk about Mia's Pearl's kind of monologue towards the end of the movie. The mom's dialogue monologue or her
In
speech
the early part.
to her, yeah, towards the middle,
Oh yeah, you're right.
where
Yeah,
yeah,
middle.
yeah,
Right, right.
when she
Your
kind of
way.
goes off on her.
Right.
You
Right.
you get to know the mother quite well, and you can tell that her life's been a disappointment as well. She wanted to be a wife and not a mother to her husband who's debilitated, and maybe she's maybe she is very human and she is kind of taking it out on Pearl because Pearl has the potential to become someone to go on, and but the mother sees the damaged side of Pearl and she wants to stamp that down. But maybe there is kind of a jealousy there too. She doesn't want Pearl to succeed. She wants her to stay in the farm
Well,
like her.
what you see for all these characters, and even the setting and the time and the place, like you see this kind of like this cocoon within a cocoon almost, like where you have this, you have the war, you have they're German, you have
Mhm.
there's something clearly going on with the dad that is
Mhm.
incapacitated, and Pearl too,
Mhm.
and her husband is gone. You see all these kind of things that are around her, and at the same time, not only do you have the war and all this, but it's also the Spanish flu. So there is, I can we understood we had a rudimentary understanding of germs,
Mhm.
and that was a thing, that was part of that was like a minor kind of character in the background, but
Which parallels what was going on with with the
COVID,
pandemic at the time.
absolutely,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
the
absolutely.
misunderstandings and all that during
Oh,
that time too.
yeah, it was just as heated, and
Mhm.
contested back then as
Uh-huh.
it was today.
Yeah.
That has not ever changed, but
Yeah, and
it
I love how they didn't preach it though. It
no,
was there. It was part of the movie, but wasn't
right,
brought out or proselytized.
right.
For,
That's why you kinda see, like, the mother, you have a very good, like, you can understand, like, well, the mother sees something, and there's a lot on her shoulders, and she's burdened, like everybody's carrying multiple crosses here, so to speak. But that's kind of like hard times. These people are very hard worn,
Mhm.
and they're very independent, even with their own family. Like even with I was kind of conflicted on what it meant, but there was like a part there like where the husband's family, mom and daughter, come over to visit
Mhm.
them, and they're much more well off. They're not having any
Mhm.
problems really. The fact that
Right.
they could drive over there in a vehicle would probably be
Mhm.
very. That's I have no idea, but you had to be well off to afford that.
Mhm.
But they brought over this thing, and the mom was like, "Nope, we don't do charity," and then like just kind
Mhm.
of set it there, and then it rotted, and
Yeah.
then it kind of became a little bit something later on, but
Mhm.
it just very interesting. I don't know, like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and then you're kind of like, whoa, what the hell's going on now? And you want to like you're like, what did I miss? Yeah, I don't know about you, but like,
Right. Right.
but
Yeah. There's things that you if we had a week to think about the movie, we might be able to develop some theories, and then we might be surprised at what other people have kind
oh
of
sure,
brought from the movie. Oh, another aspect of it is the projectionist. She loves movies. She goes to
mm,
the movie theater, and she runs into this character, the projectionist, and that's how we know of him in that. And we immediately think we're trained to think of this character as maybe a little sinister, maybe taking advantage of said Pearl. Because in a normal movie, that's what this character would be, and they kind of breadcrumb it out to maybe be that way. Because when she finally does come to see him, he shows her a stag movie, a real one actually,
Right.
that was actually filmed. But he never does he cross the line with her as far
Mm-mm.
as take advantage of her,
No,
and you realize that
no.
actually he's probably maybe the nicest character in without any
He,
evil intent.
he's a very simple character. He's a very simple character. He nails it
He's a
perfectly.
pervert. He's a pervert, but he's a nice guy.
Right, right. Well, right, right. Well, and you know what? If you were projection, he literally lives in that, in that movie thing. So movies are his life. He's
Right,
definitely a
right.
movie nerd for sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
apparently he's another
yeah.
kind of nerd. Uh, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
joking, but
yeah.
no, you kind of see like how they pluck a somewhat normal person, and then they kind of drop them into this kind of thing, and then
Uh-huh.
you kind of see like how her mom's stern German religious kind of hatred or disdain. Maybe disdain would be more for it if you're not telling the truth.
Uh-huh.
And that is kind of like a pearl thing that
Uh-huh.
so that once you start hitting that, because it shows up again later in X, I'm sure, like
Mhm.
I'm sure there are echoes especially if they filmed them, and this is why it would be fun to go back and rewatch it, but
Mhm.
for to talk about more
Mhm.
soaked layers of whatever,
Mhm.
of interpretation. But I took this very simply. I think it's best like with these kind of it's very simple what you see. You see
Mhm.
her unraveling, like this how Pearl became Pearl,
Mhm.
all the way out to if it's not that 70s iconic kind of feel, cinema vibe, whatever, Quentin Tarantino kind of. Well, I say that because that's what I have with the 70s,
Mhm.
just from a normie perspective. But you get this thing, and then you get it here in Pearl too, like where there's iconic things that happen to Pitchfork is one. That's kind of
Mhm.
like the alligator. Um,
Mhm.
alligators living
Yeah.
fat, like for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Um,
much like Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers, they her weapons of her weapons are very much of what's around her, which
oh,
is
it's brutal.
the pitchfork, the axe.
Yeah, the knife. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, oh, maybe not knife, but
Mhm.
but it doesn't really matter. Some implement that
Mhm.
is being
Yeah.
used. It's not a slasher film either. That's kind of the thing of like
Although it has flavors of it when it needs it. Like when she
it does
takes
it
out
its own way, right?
the projectionist, and there's a scene in X where she tries to take out somebody in a vehicle as well. It's very
Oh,
much, yeah.
okay.
There's a lot of echoes within it, and actually there's a scene in X where she's Pearl's looking out the window and sees Maxine, and she kind of sees herself, and she sees
Mhm.
that Maxine character maybe going on that journey to become somebody else that she never could have,
Right.
and it kind of triggers what happens within the movie. But yeah, it's uh, definitely a fascinating character study, but also, yeah, it's a horror movie in its own right as well. It's one of those interesting hybrids of a hybrid of a movie. There's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of old Hollywood kind of magic mixed in with a slasher movie, with a drama, with a character study, and it makes a very interesting soup. I love those movies that takes a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and makes something completely different, something unique. And that's one thing I'll say is about this movie. It's very unique.
It's different
Um,
from X, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, and you almost, I almost after seeing this want to say I love it better than X. Of course, I didn't get to revisit X like you, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of hard to
I haven't
say.
yet. I watched a couple like I tried to, but I ran out of time this week. But I did see a couple parts like to get a little bit back.
Uh-huh.
But I
And
agree. I would agree with you. I think X does a lot more in different kind of thing. But like this intimate view with just Pearl. she she sells it. Like I'm like,
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
something more compelling and lures you in more, where you
Hmm.
can linger on one person, one character, and
Right.
not have to just see them kind of stitched in and out throughout a movie. Like, not that that's
Yeah.
bad at all,
Hmm.
like at all, but
And
um,
the good news is this is part the second part of a trilogy, which Maxine's coming out later this year, and
I'll be curious to
so
see
we
it.
got that much more to see. And from what I hear, it's kind of an ode to Dario Argento movies.
Really?
So yeah, so it's kind of an interesting kind of
Well,
it's one of those there where I may have to get out of my cave and go to the theater to see. So if it comes anywhere close to me, we may have to. And I almost wanted to maybe wait and pair Pearl up with Maxine, but I'm glad
I
we.
think that's what we were talking about doing.
Yeah, but I'm glad that we focused in on Pearl. Pearl needed a show in and of itself, and I'm sure Maxine will too.
Yeah, and we did
Oop.
we learned very quickly what
Hmm.
like what doing
Hmm.
these double headers,
Yeah.
we kind of changed it up a little bit, and I'm looking up, trying to find out like when Maxine is out, but because if it is going to be an ode to Argento, then we will have to do like some kind of like a multi-week kind of walk up to that, not and even taking into account the ones that we have watched. I do well, I think the last one we did was Blood and Black Lace or something like that,
Hmm.
which was kind of a non Dario Argento kind of view, which was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I definitely have developed a taste for like I like Dario.
Yeah.
Okay, so July 5th is
Okay.
when we will see is when it'll be released. That could change. I doubt it, but who knows?
Yeah.
But Maxine, that would be cool. I would be down to watch that, and then like maybe do
Hmm.
like a 3 or 4 week roll up with covering Argento, murdering gelato in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
As it goes. But no, this one, I she is such a good actress. Like
Hmm.
you just get the you get the benefit of this character, and like you just see all aspects of her humanity.
Right. Yeah.
She's not
Yeah.
just like she was just beaten senselessly. Kind of tropish kind of origin
Hmm.
stories, I guess, for this. And she is. It's very weird, like when you have a gray area like this, or semi gray area, like where you're before you see the murders happen. You kind of have this kind of thing with it, with her, like where she's protagonist but antagonist,
Hmm.
and the same
Yeah.
in the same
Um.
dynamic. This just tragic kind of tale of this. She didn't escape,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. And we're all kind of we've kind of grown up in this serial killer climate where we kind of understand the basics of serial killers, and we know that the way most serial killers start off is by killing animals. And that aspect of her is
Oh
there
yeah,
from the very start, and that
yeah. They don't hide that at all.
yeah, they, she's very much in the line with being a serial killer. So she has that kind of within her. But especially with the monologue towards the end, um, you start to understand her struggles. She understands that she's different. She wants to fit in. She wants to be human, be part of the tribe, but
Right.
she knows she's uniquely different. And when her mother says, you know, you're not right, and then when the projectionist realizes there's something a little off with her, and she's like very acutely aware of that, and is trying to almost force him to understand, you know, to be with her and to understand her. It's that kind of flight or fight or flight kind of mentality where she trying to fight him into understanding her, and obviously you can't do that. But yeah, that was there's a lot of very unique scenes and very emotional scenes in this movie that are just amazing. That one's another one. Yeah, also I almost want another movie in the perspective of her husband. That would be an awesome movie as well. The,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get his like, and then you kind of like, um,
because he eventually he
he
obviously stays with her.
he and her are in X. And we'll kind of
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Hmm.
We've actually already spoiled. We've already
Hmm.
we're well into that, and the audience was forewarned. And God bless you if you get to this far with us. And tell us what you think. There is something to be unique for the quality that you get from this, like, and then you
Hmm.
kind of see how like, well, shit. I guess we'll stick around for the next 60 years.
Well,
Like,
yeah. Well, back then, when you're married, you were pretty much married.
well,
Yeah, yeah,
it meant
yeah,
something beyond how I think or feel today,
yeah,
or this
yeah.
decade. Let's put that way.
Right. So, and he obviously loved her at one point. So, but yeah. So, yeah. Another
Ties that
thing.
bind.
I watched a interview with Mia Goth on the Blu-ray here. But she said that that she was that the character, the projection, as almost to her was almost like an imaginary character, because in her mind, because you never really see him really interact with anybody.
Mhm.
So he almost could be like is this imaginary thing to her. But for me, it was kind of a real character, because it makes sense. Now another character that unsung hero in this movie is the guy that plays her father, because he has no dialogue in the movie. He's You very much read everything from his facial features and his expressions, and that's I
Limited as
always
they are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But you know how he's feeling, especially towards the end. Um, when she meets the projectionist, she's going to the theater to well, she goes into town to get the medicine. So she sneaks off to the theater to watch a movie, and she when she gets the medicine, which you clearly see it's morphine. I couldn't help but notice she takes a little bit of a nip of it
Mhm.
before she watches the movie. So
Yeah.
yeah, so she had a good time doing that movie, I would assume.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, and I was just showing like where you can see it.
Hmm.
You can see it pretty much anywhere you want.
Yep.
I think I caught like a pretty good deal for Paramount at the beginning of the year, and I paid for it a year, which
Okay.
was like half off. It was amazingly cheap. I doubt
Hmm.
I'll get it again, but I like Paramount and I like Star Trek. Not the new Star Trek, but the old Star Trek.
Hmm.
I'm enough of a fan there, and then Showtime also kind of comes with it. But
Yeah.
um,
Just to plug our little series, we did a my first watch of the first season of the next generation
oh yeah, that's right.
on this channel
That's right.
when I had Paramount. So yeah, check that out. Also, if you like Blu-rays, there's
Oh,
Pearl here.
let me
Yep.
put you up here front.
Yep. So yeah, they came out with your bare bones basic Blu-ray. Has a couple of little interview segments, which is interesting. But yeah, it's cheap. I got it for like $15 on Amazon. So yeah, you should probably get it that cheap, or if not cheaper. Although this is
That's a
one of
really good
those.
price.
Yeah, it's a decent price. Look really great. However, with it being a beautiful Technicolor-ish movie, uh, I could really see this in 4K. So, if one of those boutique companies get rights to it, like Umbrella or someone
Mhm.
like that, and does a wonderful 4K restoration or edition of this, that would be amazing. I would definitely pick that up.
Yeah. So how was the quality though for 4K and whatnot?
Oh no! Well, this isn't 4K. It's 1080p.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I got
It's
you.
your
I got you.
basic Blu-ray. It looked fantastic, but it would look even better in
on 4K.
4K.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's disappointing. Well, that's okay. Well, that they're gonna do something. Um,
Well, you hope, yeah.
I,
With the whole thing with physical media and the struggles with that, I think Target is saying they're not going to be doing for being. Is it going to have physical media in all their stores anymore? That's another one down. But I think it'll always be there as like with records. There's always going to be like those boutique shops, like at least online, like Umbrella and Arrow Film and whatnot. Severin's another one. Vinegar Syndrome, where we saw New
New
York
York Ninja.
Ninja. Yeah,
Yeah, no. This one is a one to watch.
definitely.
You get a very cool, compelling period piece kind of element with it. It works very well. It draws you in. Mia
Mm-hmm.
Goth makes the movie. She's amazing. It makes me excited to kind of go back, and I've already kind of
Mm-hmm.
saw like that we've already seen. We're already Mia Goth fans, whether we knew it or not. But for
Right,
sure, let's just
absolutely.
let me
Yeah.
pull up her justice here for like Suspiria. We've covered X, Pearl.
Mhm.
I saw.
I noticed that Infinity Pool's on Hulu. I've been really wanting to watch that as well.
We'll have to. I'll wait for you, and then
Hmm.
unless we end up covering it next week. But otherwise, I kind of want to watch Mayday. I have no idea what that's about, but it didn't look like it's very. But I don't really care about ratings. Like this one is criminally. Okay, so it's 7. Okay, so it's a little bit better. I thought I was expecting it to be 6 something, whatever. But I'd say this is if you're gonna give it a number, I'd say a full 1.5 above that, like a 8.5, if not a solid 8, for sure. I don't know if you want to venture in with a number. That we
Yeah. Oh, I'd give it a 9.
9, right on.
9. Maybe in time I might drop it down to 8, but
Right, right.
right now in my mind it's a 9.
It's
But
good. It's worth seeing, regardless. Yeah,
yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, like I said, that's I hazard to say perfect movies because I can't think of a thing
interesting.
now if and it's interesting that a horror director directed it because it has that sensibility. I think if maybe a more art house kind of guy would have done it, or gal, it might have become like a 2.5 hour long kind of examination. Whereas this movie, I love that it's an hour and 42 minutes. It says what it needs to say. It gets in there. It doesn't feel rushed. It takes
No,
its time, but it gets in a wonderful pace. It gets in, gets out. Whereas I think another director may have been would have wanted to draw it out a little bit longer and would have made it less than what it is now.
no, I very much liked how it came out. If anybody, if this would have been touched by any other hands, it would have been forgettable. And
Hmm.
that's not what happened with this.
Yep.
It draws you in. And the other thing too with A24, A24 does have a reputation for being art house and kind of abstract and avant-garde or whatever. Pick your
Hmm.
criticisms of art house, kind of roll your eyes, and
Hmm.
I just can't read it. I just have to read it. The subtitles are whatever. Whatever
Hmm.
your prejudices are with that. But
Hmm.
none of that ever really kind of shows itself in the movies that I've seen. That they don't always get there, but they do a very damn good job of trying to get there. But this is one of those 824 films that connects.
Hmm.
And now that I'm more aware of it, that makes sense to me, and I can understand why there's such a following of A24 period, whatever,
Hmm.
across the thing. And
Hmm.
there's other films we haven't even talked about.
Hmm.
So there's like a whole bunch to maybe dive into at some point.
Hmm.
But that being said, this one is a standout, and I
Yeah.
would love to see this. I would love to own this. Like what I was shown before was the was my when I bought. where I bought X and Men because they were good. They were good enough for me to say I want to own this. Of course, I dropped Amazon. I kicked that to the curb, but I can still log in and I still get access to that for the next
Yeah.
few years until they take the thing away. But that's okay. Like I'll just download it again if that's the case. Or anyway, but all joking aside, Pearl is
Yeah.
it's such a great like dive into her psyche sphere kind of thing.
Right.
But does it solo just with her as the main
Yeah, and
power on the screen.
there's those people that I say it again and again. Those people that love the superhero movies, they're all about. It's, maybe they focus in on like say DC or Marvel. They're all about the Marvel superheroes. I like some of them. I'm not a diehard in the
Just
wool
whatever.
kind of person. But horror movies, these indie horror movies, they're my jam. And when something like Pearl comes out, and another thing about these indie horror movies is you don't have to worry about them being spoiled.
Mm-mm.
These fans are respectful. A lot of those superhero ones, you really have to, if you really want to see it, you need to see it right away because some jerk is going to spoil it on social media. Whereas Pearl came out in 2022, and we just waited till to now to see it, and I wasn't spoiled on anything
No.
for it. So yeah, it's one of those. And again, I thought I would like it. I didn't realize I'd love it as much as I did, and I'm glad I've seen this, and it makes me want to watch. I've seen one other Ty West movie outside of X. Now I want
You're
to go
bringing it.
back and watch all of his movies because
Yep.
the
I agree
guy
with
who
that.
did Pearl, I have to see everything.
See, that's how I feel about Mia Goth on this.
Hmm.
I feel that way about Ty West too, but I feel like Mia Goth
Hmm.
was like the one of the main, well, the main force. And Ty West was too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he didn't do a great
Hmm.
job because he did. It was a very great
Yeah.
team collaboration. And that can be rare enough in Hollywood, for films being made. You you
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
the full benefit of all of her good acting and writing, apparently,
Hmm.
obviously, but I do you kind of like, huh? Ty West is one to watch for the decades to come.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if he's with us and still wants to make movies.
Yeah, their collaboration of these trilogy of movies. It's I can see where maybe they'll do this trilogy, and maybe there's some time between this. But I would love to see another collaboration outside of this trilogy after they've got a few more movies under their belt. And
You you want to see what they come up. And I was going to
mhm.
say to kind of like we're well into spoiler territory, but did you notice that the name of the farm that they're on when the husband comes home?
Yeah,
Did you catch the name of their farm?
yeah,
Powder Keg Farms.
yeah.
Like that. I love that. Like that's cool.
Oh, and one other thing about the location, that they filmed it in New Zealand. You had the house. They actually borrowed the house from this family to shoot in.
Mhm.
So they moved the family out while they filmed it. They obviously they did the '70s version first, where it was kind of dilapidated. So they had to kind of dilapidate it down. And Ty West said that was the hardest part to make something look old is the hardest thing to do. So they went through and made it. They aged everything, the house and the barn, and then they filmed the movie, and so they knew that they were going to have to redo it, and then they realized they're going to do the second movie, so they go, okay. So they took a month to repaint everything, make it brand new, but they were doing it in that kind of Technicolor look, so they really went all out on the color and made it all bright, and they so that was kind of the easiest transition because all they really had to do was pick the wallpaper, put it up, like you would with if you're redecorating a house as opposed to aging it. So they made it. They made the barn bright red. He said they had a wall full of different reds that they could use for the barn, and he said they are probably were all pretty much the same color, but they were meticulous on which red they had to pick for it. So they did it, and they were all prepared to repaint or redo the house once the family came back. But the family was so in love with how the house looked, they kept it. So
I
so there's a house there in New Zealand that's
That's
the
cool.
Powder Keg Ranch out there. So I have to wonder in this age of online social media people whether or not that family's gets people wandering out to the house to take pictures.
You know, if we're still doing this thing and we do a YouTube 10 years, which would be cool, but probably not. But whatever, it would be cool to track that because I have no doubt.
Hmm.
If you're not in the know and you don't know, this one is one to watch.
Hmm.
X is also one. Also, Men. I remember fondly. I remember liking that one as well. And Midsummer, like these A24 films are like I'm definitely a
Hmm.
fan, for sure. Like I don't think that they can do no wrong. I'm sure that they can, but for this one, you're not at risk. You're not risking anything. If you and it's not
Hmm.
like over the top horror, like where it's just like shock and awe, kind of
Right.
kind of like that. It's not that at all. It's in commiserate with it with the emotional aspects. It's more about the emotional negative kind
Hmm.
of like blossoming of this thing that's inside her
Yep.
that she can no longer obey or can command. She
Yeah.
has to obey it.
Hmm.
And that idyllic setting is equally, if not more, surpassed by what transpires.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
lack of a better
It's
term.
yeah. It's kind of a jumbled mix of uh, the golden age of Hollywood, that bright lights, kind of glitz and glamour,
The
but
birth.
also
Yeah.
but I also got the sense um, of that painting American Gothic,
Oh,
that
right.
classic, you know, painting showing you the rural side of America, and and it's sort of in it that painting kind of hints at maybe the darker sides if you want to just kind of look at it a little bit further in, as you kind of examine it. Yeah, that with you got the pitchfork there, and yeah, you really don't know what's it's kind of a really engaging painting. You're kind of like, okay, what's exactly going on here? uh,
For
whereas
sure.
on the surface, it's like, oh, okay. But as you kind of stare closer at it, you start to see the inconsistencies and the what's the little off tones to it. But yeah, it's sort of like this movie. It's kind of on the surface, everything looks okay, but maybe it's not. And yeah, and then there's we didn't even talk about the big dance number towards the end. One of my
Mm,
fears of the
yeah.
movie was that the whole movie was going to be like that was going to be
Really.
completely kind of a fantasy in her head
Oh,
kind of
right, right,
movie.
right, right, right.
Because in the previews, that's kind of what they show, and so that was my fear. I was pleasantly surprised that they used that sparsely and to effect. And I
Yeah,
also
no.
love the dance scene between her and the scarecrow. That
That
was very very engaging.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and again, it's like it's more of like a
Hmm.
nod to hat to Wizard of Oz. Like where the
Hmm.
what was the Scarecrow you
Hmm.
didn't have a brain.
Hmm.
Aspects of humanity. Like these kind of things. It's like a deconstruction of horror of that, and then kind of like rebuilding at the very end. And the way that it ends, um, I love the way that I love that. Like,
Hmm.
I love that, drop the hat, kinda like we're going along, you expect more because 'cause you're already there, kinda thing. And you don't get the kinda sense of like, "Okay, this is all over." You're just kind of like there's a moment, like, where the husband comes back, and he's coming into the house, and he sees this, Last Supper, but with death. I guess. You want to
Yeah.
you talk about something like just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
But there is kind of like just like you can kind of just see him like it's not like he's not like sighing or like oh my god, like he's just like shocked. He's just like what? Yeah, and then you just kind of see her just kind of like with this
Yeah.
off
Pearl. Yeah.
off colored gunk. I don't know what it was. I don't care, but this stuff and like her pearly whites and her kind of thing, and then cut
Well,
like
actually, they don't cut it. It's well, it kind of does
well
the ending sort of like
the
the old.
scroll
Yeah, yeah.
thing,
Well,
right?
no, well, they kind of do it like the old Hollywood movies where it was kind of like cards that they would show with the names
Oh,
dot dot
yeah,
dot
yeah,
the
yeah,
names.
yeah.
But yeah, usually that was on like a freeze frame or a still image. But instead of a still image, they they got a close up of Mia, and it was kind of ad libbed in the sense that Ty did the close up of her, but didn't say cut. So
Hmm.
she was trying to keep that smile on her face for the longest time, and
Oh, yeah, you no,
you know,
you're right. Yeah, they didn't cut. I
yeah,
was like
yeah,
thinking not cut, but they transitioned
uh,
to the
yeah,
end.
yeah, to her, and there's like a she even cries at one point because she's holding it so long, and she kind of if you'll notice she kind of does her head like okay we're done, but he kind of keeps it
Oh,
going.
with their eyes, right, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, and uh
So
it's yeah,
awkward.
yeah, it's and it kind of encapsulates the movie. It's sort of like that
Interesting.
that trying for the perfect Hollywood thing, but not quite getting there. Yeah, like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, where life doesn't freeze frame on something. It continues, and she's trying to freeze that moment. She's trying to like, okay, no, no. Let's pause here, and I can explain.
Right,
But
right. It's like, what the next guy like, boy, would have
yeah.
paid money to hear the conversation for that. Like,
Right, that next moment. So yeah, it's a perfect
totally
ending.
sucks you in too. It's such a perfect because it just as you kind of really get sucked in, it kicks you out.
Yeah, and like I said, like I said, I want that next movie for about him, about what happens next. But I don't think we're gonna get that. But yeah, that's the beauty of a movie like this is it leaves you wanting more, even though it's filling in questions you had for X. It leaves even more questions that you have. The world's
But
so rich and so
but
interesting.
but I love this too because it doesn't answer those, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it answers them in a kind of like a where the donut is missing, right? So you get the
Mm-hmm.
answer, but it's more like a donut.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're expecting a full plate of answers, and there's a hole in the center, like where
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to figure out where you want, kind of whatever your thought process is
Mm-hmm.
with X or this one, it invites you in to figure it out. And that's what I love about A24 more often than not. I love that. I love
Mm-hmm.
that this is a stark contrast to modern films that like they tell you something. And this is not just this era or whatever. There's always been dumb movies that
Mm-hmm.
just tell you they beat you over the head with exposition or or some other kind of like the morality play or tale or message or whatever, like outside of the loaded term the message
Mm-hmm.
in modern day. But this invites you in and it thinks that it gives you the respect to be smart enough to what do you think? Like
Yeah.
what the hell happened? Again, this is like where it invites more speculation and conversation. Like what happened in the first 10 minutes? What did that conversation, kind of go?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool, dorky, nerdy kind of conversation to have. And brings you in.
Mm-hmm.
I love it as well. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And
I think you loved it a little bit more
mhm.
than I did, but
Yeah.
I'm getting where you're coming from. I do think that I do love this just a little bit more than X, but that's not saying much because like it kind of pushes the appreciation for X a little higher too, like when you have more to work with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they
It's
both are perfect for what they
they kind of help elevate each other. Yeah. the horror of this is based in reality. There's no supernatural
Mm-mm.
element of it. And when I was reading a lot of horror back in the 80s, one of the writers that specialized in this, that did it perfectly, was our former guest that we had on was Jar Lansdale. He does really good, deep in Americana or the South kind of gritty horror kind
That's
of
true.
tells. So that kind of in also Jack Ketchum, Edward Lee, and Richard Lehman. They're all like great writers. So if you're into horror and you haven't read those guys, you might want to check them out. Great stuff. And yeah, if you haven't seen our video of us interviewing Joe Lansdale, go ahead and dip back into our archives and take a look at that. But yeah, I think we're kind of towards the end here. I There's probably something I missed that I'll hit myself for not saying, but I think like you said, Mia Goth. I'm a huge fan now. I was
Me too.
a fan of her previously. She has aspects of Sissy Spacek to me. I don't know what that is,
Interesting.
but
Sure.
I can kind of see that. Although I think I don't know. I'm looking forward to see what Mia Goth does in the future. Definitely.
Yeah, and as we come up here to the thing to say, that I think that the best thing to say would be go watch it, go make up your own mind, make it a doubleheader if you can stand it. You won't be disappointed. But a little bit of plugging before we walk away. The first to last Nerdom, we are on again on YouTube, as well as Twitter. Like I said, Tom heads up the Twitter division, X division, whatever it is. You can find me on ApeIt.Ink. And then you can also find numerous comings and goings here or there on my Linktree page. But more importantly, help us get to 1,000 subscribers. I think that would be a great goal if we could get there for by the end of the year. We'll call it that.
Yep.
Very very humble. We get there, we get there. If not, whatever. We'll take whatever we can get. But go check out our back catalog. And like Tom was saying, we've covered X, covered many other A24 flicks, the 80s flicks. We've had our interviews too. I need to make playlists for these, so like when I call them up, you can just kind of find them and go. But we've had a few of them that we've done. Um,
Yeah, and Flesh and Blood. We were kind of curious as to what kind of audience we'd have for that,
I
and
was surprised.
it did quite well.
I
Yeah.
was surprised. I
Yep.
was.
I think.
I don't really expect anything to be clear, but like when kind of something goes up, and shout out to Tom for putting it in the right spot too, for getting eyeballs on it too. I think you helped that along quite a bit with the Reddit. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I always kind of plug it to where it's where I can. But yeah, it's on Tubi right now. So if you haven't seen Flesh and Blood and you want to, and then watch our show, check it out on Tubi. And yeah, the a couple of people commented on my post on there. One of them was surprised it was on Tubi. It's like, oh man, I got to watch it on Tubi. So Tubi, if you could maybe do a little sponsor deal with us, maybe.
hey, just watch. We're as I say that I should just watch. If you could kick over some shekels, we love it. But like maybe at 1,000 subs, like we can we'll think about humbly asking the audience for money to do this thing. Although we do it at a passion. We'll
Mhm,
never be rich from this thing.
mhm,
This thing will probably never make money, which is fine. It probably will never break even. That's fine too. But damn it, sometimes it's nice to follow a group of folks that are like-minded and just like want to see something good, and don't care about the other things that are out there, where we don't do that. But we just want to kind of get better at what we do. And if you can stick with us, we really would appreciate it if you could give us some feedback. But this week this was fun.
mhm.
Fun to watch this. Like it was awesome. But with that, I've been Mike.
I'm Tom, and stay safe out there, Mister Goose.
Mr. Goose. One time.
Yeah, he got the goose, didn't
Goose got something.
he?